Hey, it's Luxury Travel Docs here today, and you probably know that we were on the maiden voyage of P&O Cruises' newest ship, the Arvia. This cruise was the maiden voyage, but was also conducted over the Christmas and New Year holidays. As Americans, we were a little hesitant to schedule our first cruise on P&O Cruises because we had heard a lot of things from individuals who had been on P&O Cruises, kind of telling us that we may not enjoy it as much as we had other cruise lines, in particular American cruise lines. As we've told you before, all proceeds from our channel are donated to charity. Please help us help others by giving us a thumbs up, giving us a comment on this video, or subscribing to our channel. Your support makes a difference. The itinerary for our cruise on Arvia was to go to the Canary Islands, Portugal, and Spain. This was meant to be a warm weather cruise from the cold weather of the British Isles. We've done loads more videos about our time on Arvia, and we've tried to break them down into shorter segment videos, like videos about all of the restaurants on one deck, videos about the gym, videos about the entertainment or Headliners Theater, the casino, and we've tried to put them all into one playlist, so do us a favor and check those out. One thing that I think is really important to go over when you are considering booking a P&O cruise as an American is that the process for booking this cruise is very different than what we have done in the past. The only agent representative that is available for you to book a P&O cruise as an American is the website Vacations to Go. Now, maybe you have booked something with Vacations to Go in the past, and we had never really booked anything with Vacations to Go, so we had to get a new travel agent assigned to us at that agency. At the time, there were only a few travel agents in the agency that had been trained on P&O Cruises, but specifically trained on their new ship Arvia. So our booking of this cruise was a little bit frustrating because it took us a little bit of time to find an appropriate agent once we had contacted Vacations to Go. And actually some of those agents realized that the cruise we were looking to take wasn't even in the system. We also had to find an agent at Vacations to Go who was trained in converting British pound sterling to American dollars. Now, while this seems like it might not be that complicated, apparently at this agency training had to be done, and the actual fares that Vacation to Go was going to charge us had to be established. So once we had found the cruise that we wanted to take with P&O Cruises, there was about a 1 to 2 week delay for us to figure out how we were going to book this and find out that it was going to be Vacations to Go. And then once we contacted Vacations to Go, we had to take a little bit of time to find the appropriate agent. It's kind of interesting because P&O Cruises only has the one American agency. You're kind of stuck without being able to find a very discounted cruise. We encountered many individuals who had booked this cruise that were British, and they had significantly lower fares and significantly more onboard credit than we did. P&O Cruises has very particular requirements for insurance for their passengers, and we were told by Vacations to Go that we had to have the same type of insurance. Now, this was something that was very interesting but also very frustrating. The residents of the United Kingdom are required to have 1 million pound sterling coverage for medical evacuation and repatriation. Now, when you try to equate that to American dollars, of course that would be somewhere around $1.2 million of coverage for medical evacuation and repatriation per passenger. And that's just not available in the United States. So there was further delay in booking this cruise because of the difficulty in finding insurance. Now, of course, Vacations to Go does offer insurance for you that supposedly will meet the requirements of P&O Cruises. Now, we already have an annual travel insurance plan that we use, and I was told by my own personal travel agent that she felt that should be enough for us to travel on P&O Cruises. But according to Vacations to Go, if you don't buy the insurance that they are offering, you are required to sign a waiver that you declined their insurance that they state meets the requirements of P&O Cruises. Now, I did a lot of investigating about this insurance issue. I called the company that issues the policy for Vacations to Go and found that their coverage actually only covered the same amount of coverage that I had by my annual travel insurance. So I didn't feel that taking the insurance from Vacations to Go was going to afford me any additional benefit from what I already had. And this amount of coverage actually is only about $250,000 for medical evacuation and repatriation following an injury per passenger. I did go ahead and sign the form that was going to be submitted to P&O Cruises that I refused the coverage offered by Vacations to Go, but I did indicate on that I had an annual travel insurance that afforded me the same amount of coverage for medical evacuation and repatriation that was being offered to me by Vacations to Go. Now, if you read the form, it doesn't actually say the same thing, but I felt pretty confident that I had enough coverage. Now, as I started thinking about this more, I began to get worried that I was going to be denied boarding in Southampton after traveling quite a distance from the United States. So my solution for this was that I actually called Insure My Trip, who, if you've never used them, are extremely helpful to solve any type of insurance problem that you may have. And I told them that I wanted to get a small policy to supplement my annual travel policy that did meet the requirements of P&O Cruises for the what I decided to do was get $1 million of coverage for medical evacuation and repatriation. And I was able to find something on Insure My Trip that was about $120 less per passenger than what Vacations to Go was offering. The charge for the insurance for Vacations to Go was somewhere around $170 to $180 per passenger, but what I was able to get from Insure My Trip was about $50 per passenger and did meet the requirements. I printed out all of the policy coverages that I had, brought paper copies with me to the port in Southampton. I did sign an affidavit with P&O Cruises that I did have adequate coverage, and that's required when you check in. And then when I actually physically checked in to the cruise, nobody asked me for any of the policies whatsoever. We'll put a link to the cruises that are available on P&O Cruises at Vacations to Go. So what were some of the things that we were told that we might encounter on P&O Cruises that we wouldn't be used to as Americans? I'd like to take each of these myths and break them down individually about our impressions of P&O Cruises Arvia. Of course, we were worried about the food because, as you know, we hear all the time as Americans that British food is not so good, so yes, we were a little bit worried about that. The included food on Arvia was not the greatest. I have to say this is probably our number one complaint about the cruise. And it's not because it was British food, it was because the food just was not made with very much love. If you were to go to any of the included restaurants, such as the main dining rooms, the Olive Grove, the Horizon Buffet, The food was just, again, very bland. It felt like it was just produced on a mass scale without a lot of flavor. It seemed like it was pre-prepared in a lot of situations, such as the beans that you might get with an English breakfast were fresh out of a can. The desserts, even though they looked great, really had no flavor. The food was just severely disappointed in the included restaurants. We did, as Americans, go to the American diner. The American diner to us really was an extreme disappointment. Now you have to realize that as Americans, we have been to diners many times and we know what American diner food is. The food that was offered in the American diner on Arvia really just was kind of not characteristic. You know, when we think of diners, we think of milkshakes, French fries, hamburgers, and then comfort foods like meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and so forth. But at the American diner, there was, for example, ribs with barbecue sauce. And the barbecue sauce was not very typical of an American barbecue sauce. It was more just like a ketchup. There were steaks. I had a steak there, and there was a side of French fries. So I did get some French fries, but it just was not like being in a real American diner. They have a jukebox, and the jukebox is kind of cool to see that, and that is representative of an American diner. The decor and the floor were representative of an American diner, but this really was an extreme disappointment for us. We just didn't think the food was very good, and it's kind of loud in there, and honestly, when I dine in the evenings, I really don't want a loud environment. I want good service, good food, and peace and quiet. Now, on the other hand, the specialty restaurants on board were excellent, and my advice to you is that if you want to go on a P&O cruise and good food is extremely important to you, then spend the extra money to go to the specialty restaurants. Our favorite was Epicurean. Our second favorite was Sindhu, which is an Indian or Mediterranean type food. Our biggest piece of advice for included restaurants is to try the Keys, which they seem to have the best selection of food because there was some fallout from the Green & Co. restaurant, which is right next door. So there was a little bit of influence from that restaurant or that chef, a little bit of influence from the sushi bar, and then different types of food that were meant to represent kind of food truck food during the day. And we found that to be quiet, quick, and a little more reliable for included food. We were told by some people that we may not enjoy the entertainment on board like we would on an American ship because British and American comedy, for example, are a little bit different from each other. This was really a myth because we really enjoyed the entertainment on board Arvia. We enjoyed Ronan Keating, we enjoyed Neil Lockwood, we enjoyed most of the musical acts that were on board. We did enjoy the comedian, and we really enjoyed the pub quizzes that happened throughout the day. The next myth is that the residents of the UK that we would meet on board P&O Cruises would be much more formal than we were used to as Americans. We didn't find this to be the case. We felt very much at home with the type of clothing that we decided to wear during the day, the evening clothes that we wore, and the formal clothes that we wore. We really did not feel any less formal or that the Brits were being any more formal than us. The next myth are the sunbeds. And this has been a big complaint of even the residents of the United Kingdom that the sunbed availability on Arvia is very low. I have to say that we're not really ones to lay in the sun, so we weren't specifically looking for sunbeds all the time. But the sunbeds were occupied. If there was sun, the sunbeds were filled. And a lot of times, this may be people who reserve a sunbed because they want it for all day long. So they get out there at 6 o'clock in the morning, put their stuff on a sunbed, and then go do something else. And that, of course, is the case. It seemed to be more likely to happen around the aft pool, the aft sun decks near the pool, and then of course whatever side of the ship, port or starboard, that would have the most sun was always where the most people were. P&O Cruises supposedly has cards that they put on sunbeds when there is a sun chair hogger to tell them that their stuff is going to be removed, but we didn't see any of those in action on board Arvia. All in all, the ship itself is beautiful. The ship was brand new when we sailed on it. Of course, we were on the maiden voyage. We loved the cabins that we saw. We loved the layouts of the bathrooms. We had excellent service from our cabin stewards, and all of the facilities on board were fresh, large, and beautiful. Arvia itself has a great art collection that you can tour all over the ship, and there are little placards telling you about the artists. The facilities and the chairs and the seating are lovely and very comfortable. The decor was very muted, very warm and inviting. The fabrics were very soft and beautiful. As you know, we love to have healthy activities when we travel, and the gym on board Arvia was probably one of the best that we've ever seen at sea. The spa was beautiful. It had some very unique treatments available, and the thermal suite itself was a beautiful place to spend the day. We really did not feel that the retreat itself was worth the daily rate or even the entire cruise rate. We did a video on that where we toured it and talked a little bit to the staff at the retreat, and if you get a chance, take a look at that. The itineraries for Arvia really are kind of interesting. There will be Mediterranean itineraries. Of course, we took the itinerary that went to the Canary Islands, and they did spend the season in the Caribbean as well. Our advice to you is that if you find a good rate on vacations to go as an American, go ahead and try out P&O Cruises. I would put aside a budget to go to the specialty restaurants because, again, if you really enjoy a better tasting meal and would like to dine in the evenings, then go ahead and put aside some money for that. And usually the costs of the specialty restaurants were anywhere from about $25 US to about $35 US per person per evening. And I would just suggest that you put that money away and do your best to go to the specialty restaurants and in as many evenings as you can. One of the other things that we felt was very positive about P&O Cruises are that we do like to take shore excursions. We did take shore excursions in almost every port that we stopped at on this cruise. We felt that the offerings were adequate for the locations that we went to. We were able to get every tour that we wanted to take on this itinerary, and the prices were actually very reasonable. We have been on American cruise lines where the prices of shore excursions we feel are very reasonable, but we've also been on some cruise lines where we felt that the prices of shore excursions are ridiculously high. Certainly, P&O Cruises prices for their shore excursions were very, very reasonable. Our final thoughts are that we truly enjoyed this maiden voyage on P&O Cruises' newest ship, the Arvia. The ship itself is beautiful, but as an American, having to book our cruise only through one available travel agency, which was Vacations to Go, was a little bit frustrating. We could not contact P&O Cruises directly unless we wanted to make an international phone call, and that would be very expensive if you had to stay on hold for a prolonged period of time. Some of the myths that we were told, like the entertainment on board or the formality of the cruise, didn't pan out to be true. However, the food was not what we expected. We did anticipate having a better quality food than what we were provided in the included restaurants. We do have to say, however, that the restaurants that were an upcharge or the not included restaurants did have very good food. The ship itself is beautiful, with everything being brand new, very soft, very inviting, and very warm. The amenities of the ship, such as the entertainment, the bars, the casino, the aerial ropes course, and the pools were all exceptional. The spa and the fitness center, where we spent a lot of time, was wonderful. As always, we enjoy sailing out of London because there's so much to do before your cruise, and transportation from the airport to the city to the port of Southampton is very easy once you become used to it. And lastly, we really enjoyed this itinerary. There are not a lot of cruise lines from America that go to the Canary Islands, although there are some, and we did see a ship from Norwegian Cruise Lines while we were at one of the islands. So if you want to go to the Canary Islands with shore excursions that are reasonably priced, then P&O Cruises may be a very good option for you. All in all, we really doubt that we would do another cruise on P&O Cruises because we really did not see the value in the price that we paid. The issue of the insurance was also an additional cost that we really didn't anticipate since we already had an annual policy. Feel free to drop us your experience when you've gone on P&O Cruises in the comments below. Always remember to make meaningful and healthy travel happen, and we hope you've enjoyed our review of P&O Cruises' newest ship, the Arvia, on its maiden voyage as Americans sailing. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time.